name's Ben Scales. I wrote this bill. It's been a work in progress for about 4 years. Thank you very much. As many of you know, I really was writing it from the patient's perspective. I wanted to make sure that that patients were protected, and to that end, I've tried to make definitions that that ensure that first of all, that patients can have the adequate supply that they need. I don't know how many of you have looked at the bill, but I'm going to go over the adequate supply, what an adequate supply is, how it's defined. First and foremost, it's defined as an uninterrupted availability of cannabis for a period of 3 months. Okay? A lot of people, a lot of states, they say, well, you get this many plants, or you get this many ounces, or you get this many grams, or whatever than that. And you don't do that with any other medicine. You're allowed to have, with scheduled drugs, either a month or 2 or 3 months supply. I chose 3 months. Perhaps that's too restrictive. And maybe in future iterations that is going to go away. Because, I mean, I look around this room and I see people who I'm sure agree with me that medical marijuana, we should have passed this 10 years ago. We're here right now on our knees begging this legislature to give us the right to this medicine. But it won't be too long before we're here demanding that they stop locking us up for whatever we want to use this plant for. All right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and I'm going to talk about the financial aspects of this bill. It's essentially the same bill that was introduced 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, the Fiscal Research Division put together what they call a fiscal note, which describes the economic impacts, what a certain bill will cost. Usually that's what most bills that are up here are focused on how much is this going to cost the state to have this happen. Well, so they went through a whole bunch of information on how much law enforcement costs would be, and well, they figured out, well, it's actually going to save law enforcement money. And then they ran some numbers on sales tax, and they figured it'll make 31.9. Well, you can read that better than I can. That much money in sales tax revenue alone. Okay, and they used some kind of hinky formula here to figure out how many residents were going to use how much. And I've been talking to some economists, and that's just not a very good way to figure this stuff out. So the other thing that the Fiscal Research Division did not look at were some of the significant fees. The license fees, $5,000 for each dispensary, $5,000 for each grower, and then 10% gross receipts at each level. I mean, this is going to be one of the most heavily taxed industries that's ever existed, and we still think that the price is going to be half of the way the black market price is currently. How many patients are here? I saw Dr. Bako talked about, he said 1%. I calculated all these numbers from the most recent numbers of all the legal states, and I came up with 0.79%, which is, when I'm using these numbers, I'm trying to be as conservative as possible. I don't want anybody to be able to call BS on us, and my initials are BS, so my guess is about 76,000 patients in North Carolina. How much are we going to use? Now, this is a big number that we don't really know. I mean, so again, I was trying to be as conservative as possible. Dr. Abrams, many of you know him. He's one of the most respected researchers in the field. He came up with an average of about 1.5 grams per day. I know a lot of people use a whole lot more than that. I know some people don't use that much. then how much are they going to buy versus how much they're going to grow their own? The best number I could find was out of Montana, where a district court judge actually made a finding on that. He found that 62% of those patients purchase their medicine versus growing their own, which means if you multiply this out, about 12 ounces a year. Now, I don't know how, you know, if you guys are using an ounce a month, or if it's less than that or more than that.
For oil, it's a pound every 3 months.
Right. Well, and again, these numbers are all on smoked cannabis. I'm not going that other direction right now. So 12 ounces. That's I think that's reasonable and conservative. If we hit half the black market price, we end up with a new industry that makes $182 million a year. I don't think there's anybody else bringing any legislation to this chamber that is coming close to those kind of numbers, except for maybe gambling. Okay. So how much money do I think it's going to generate? I have some other numbers I'm going to show you in a minute from what I did 2 years ago, but I backed those numbers back to be as conservative as possible. License fees. I'm guessing 1 dispensary and 1 producer per county. Now, in Alexander County, you might not have one, but in Mecklenburg County, there might be 50. You know, so I'm just guessing that we're going to have 1 per county. The register fees, $10 a card. The license fee, blah, blah, blah. You can see where these come out to about $42 million a year. And this is, like I said, extremely conservative. Let me show you the numbers from what I did before. All right, this is 2 years ago, I just picked a few states and I came up with 1.15% average of how many patients we'll have. 106,000. That's a little bit more than the doctor suggested, but a little bit, and even more than what I'd said earlier. Right now, the federal government ships about 6.5 pounds or 100 ounces a year to the legal patients. Now, maybe that's the appropriate dosage, okay? Maybe 100 ounces a year is the appropriate dosage. I'm not sure how many people can spend that kind of money on their medicine if it's $200 an ounce, okay? So I knocked it back to 50 ounces a year. Okay, we'll go half of what the federal government is saying, all right? Using those numbers, look what new industry we have now. It's not $182 million, which I think is a pretty significant sum. It's $1 billion. $1 billion. Who else is coming here with $1 billion? Saying, hey, tax us. Look what it does to the to the overall tax numbers. This runs it up to $250 million benefit to the state. I'm really glad that we took the more respected professions, the doctor and the nurse, before we brought the lawyer up, because you know, they both went long on time, and I'm going to go short. But I just want to close by saying that I'm really grateful to Representative Alexander for having the courage to do this. I hope that each of you has had a chance, if you haven't had a chance yet, that you'll take the time after lunch to go and meet with at least one legislator and talk to them about this legislation and listen to what they have to say, and be very, and don't, I mean, be respectful, be deferential. Listen to what they have to say, but don't let them wiggle out of the conversation without giving you an answer. Don't let them say they haven't thought about this yet. Don't let them say they haven't heard about it just enough yet. They should know already. They should know already whether they're going to support this or whether they're going to oppose it, or whether they're going to support it with some changes.
You know, this bill has been floating around for 4 years. And nobody yet has come up to me and said, oh, you know, I could support it if the taxes were higher, or if the adequate supply was defined differently, or if the qualified. Nobody has looked at the details of this bill at all, except for us. And that's what I want to have happen. I want there to be an actual meaningful debate this time. I want there to be committee hearings where these types of issues are discussed, and we shouldn't let ourselves be pushed off any longer. And we let these people know that they work for us. Thanks so much.